Welcome to season 2, episode 34 of the Bulls REKAP Podcast. I'm Joe Colley of the Chicago Sun-Times. You can obviously find my work in the sports section of the Chicago Sun-Times. You can follow me on Twitter, X, however you want to call it, at JCowleyHoops. Look, we are in an exciting time. I don't remember a summer, well, we're not summer yet, but a spring where I've actually been like, man, I kind of can't wait for June draft, and then I can't wait for summer league. Then I can't wait for camp. Usually I'm in just shutdown mode. I'm like, I don't give a damn what the Bulls off season is. I don't give a damn what it looks like. This feels different. Obviously, a new front office helps. And I will say this is a fun draft class to study, to break down, to fantasize about, to buy some stock in their cards. There's a lot of different things you can do. And my guy, Will Gottlieb, has been doing an awesome job since the combine. He's got these 5-minute capsules through CHGO, and then obviously the All NBA YouTube channel. Dude, those are great. People got to check them out. I mean, if you want just kind of a, it's not some half-hour drowning on, blah, 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 blah. It's just 5 minutes. These are the facts of these guys. These are the statistics and analytics behind these guys. These are the opinions on these guys. I mean, kudos to you, man. Great job.
I appreciate it, Joe. I appreciate you having me back on. But yeah, I mean, there's so many really good people at like breaking down film and going through 20, 30 minutes on some of these guys. And I think that's super valuable. I've learned a lot from those, but I wanted to do something a little different and like just get like the cliff notes basically on some of these prospects and just kind of help me learn more about them. So it's been a lot of fun. I hope people are enjoying them. And yeah, to your point, I mean, you called it in Golden State when we were out in San Francisco. Bulls are going to be drafted number 4. So even getting into some of these guards, it's like, might not have to worry about them.
Yeah. And you know what? The thing that's interesting is like in previous drafts, you'd be like, okay, the Bulls are armed with 1 pick. Do you try and move up because there's this tier of this and then there's a big dry spell? It's like, okay, they've got number 4, and I feel really good about those 4 guys, and your hand's kind of going to be dealt to you. That's fine. But even 15, people are kind of talking about, do you trade up? And I'm just like, why? I mean, unless there's somebody you really love. And because to me, this second tier after that top 4 is just filled with talent. I mean, all-stars. I mean, I'm not saying organizational game changers, but there's some all-star guys that could be found in there. And to me, like, it's funny, Bulls fans, before the draft lottery, number 9, that was kind of our plight. And now it's number 4, and now they want to trade and move. And I'm just like, everybody just relax. When you look, I mean, you were at the combine, when you look, we'll get into the top 4, but when you look beyond 4 and we're going 5 through, to me, it almost goes 5 to like 16, 17, where I feel good about. Do you get that same sense that second tier is as big a second tier as the draft class has seen in a while?
I think so. I'd probably do like a sub tier and do like 5 to 9, and then a slight step down from, to your point, like 10 to 16, 17, 18, maybe even 20. I mean, there's a lot of good players in this draft, and the Bulls are in such a good spot where it is one of those years where you can like let the talent fall to you. It's not one of those situations where you have to trade up,
right,
where you're going to be forced to reach on someone because you need that position. I think they're in a really good spot where they're going to end up with players, and I'm not opposed to a trade up. Just depends on the cost. Like, I'm not giving up future picks with new lottery reform. I'm not giving up any future picks.
Right.
With this team. You got to hold on to those and just hope you get lucky, see what happens. I'd actually be more interested in moving down, because if you do move down to like 18 or 19, you could still get a player in that tier and then maybe pick up an asset yourself. So that's the way they should be thinking. Just like pick up as many extra picks as you can, move us off of some of these vets if you have to, take on bad money if you have to. But that's got to be Bryson Graham's MO here as they try to rebuild this roster, because yeah, this draft is really strong. And I think it just also is like reinforcing the idea that they got to be collecting more draft picks. It's so much better to go into a draft when you have 2 selections and you have that flexibility compared to previous years where it's like, man, I really hope somebody like Modest Buzelis falls to 11, or some, miracle trade offer comes from the Pelicans. for a future unprotected first round pick. Like, this just gives you way more power and flexibility. And that's really like how you build a team.
All right, we'll get into the top 4 in a second. You talked about a second tier in your mind. Who are the names in that second tier where you have 5? I think you said 5 through 10. You thought was kind of a second tier.
Yeah, I would go in no particular order. Acuff, Wagler, Flemings, Michael Brown Jr., Braden Burries, and I think I'd throw Adai Mara in there as well, just because the center class in this group is not very strong. I think people have differing opinions on him and just like his viability because he's kind of a slower guy, but the NBA is getting bigger. And so you need these like 7'2", 7'3" guys to help protect the rim. I would definitely throw him in that category.
Is Cameron Carr pushing that envelope? Because, I had him, I think I did a immediate mock and I didn't have him in there. I kind of had him feeling like he was 20. Fun fact, I used to play basketball with his dad, Chris Carr.
You have all these like connections where you're playing with these guys. That's crazy.
Chris used to bring Randy Moss up to the run. So we used to play with Chris Carr and Randy Moss. And then my son actually went to his basketball academy, 43 Hoops, at a long time Minneapolis. So it'd be kind of cool if they do get Cameron Carr with the second pick, because I just remember Chris talking about this little kid. I mean, this is years and years ago that you don't know what he's going to become and stuff. But
they got J.C. Sheldon on the sky, trade for Jalen Suggs, draft Cameron Carr, all your people.
All my people. Where do you put? Is he inching his way up? Because when he measured, his freaking wingspan's ridiculous. I mean, that's a tie your shoes without bending down type of guy. And then he goes out in that scrimmage, and obviously a lot of the big names weren't playing in that scrimmage. But for him to go and showcase kind of his athleticism, his shot, and Baylor dudes are kind of dogs defensively. They're just kind of wired that way. Where do you think, is he inching his way into that second tier, or is he still in that kind of 11 to 20 area?
I think he's probably towards the top of that third tier where it's like 11 to 20. But I would say like him and probably Morez Johnson Jr. from Michigan were the two biggest risers at the combine. The measurements, as you mentioned, I think it was like 6'5" with a 7'1" wingspan for Carr. The athleticism is crazy. He was dunking everything. He made a ton of threes in that scrimmage. And that's what you want to see from these guys, is like the guys that are supposed to be like mid first round guys. If they're competing against a bunch of second rounders and late first guys and undrafted guys in those combine scrimmaging, like you want to see them really pop. And that's what he did. So he shut it down after one game. He looked really good. I could see him even going before the Bulls draft at 15 for sure. Because that type of player too, like the 6'5" wing who's long, who can defend. I think he's got to sharpen up some things and like be more consistent defensively, but the shooting, the athleticism, the potential there, I think is really, really high. So yeah. And also just at a position that's really premium in the league where you can guard 2s and 3s and maybe guard down on 1s. Like every team needs those kind of guys. So I could absolutely see him climbing.
What, you brought up Mara. Obviously the bigs, it's an interesting group, and we're staying outside the top 4. We'll dive into that. Talk to me about some of those bigs that were kind of impressive. I mean, Mara, and you brought up Johnson and guys like that. Where do you see 4 or 5 bigs that you say, okay, they feel like 15, that the Bulls could go ahead and grab those guys?
Yeah, I did a mock draft earlier this week with Mara going to 15, and I think he's like more talented than that. But I also think it's a little bit hard to find the right fit for him, because you look at some of these teams, it's like everybody needs a guard. It'd be kind of surprising if all these smaller guards go in the top 10. But it was hard for me to pick out a spot where somebody really wanted a center like that. I do think he's that talented, really good as a facilitator and like a post hub. Really, really good rim protector, moves his feet actually pretty well, can play good drop coverage. So I like him. But I also think there's some other good. There are maybe a little bit more 4-5, and that gives me some pause. Hannes Steinbach from Washington, Jaden Quaintance from Kentucky, and then Morez Johnson from Michigan, as I mentioned. I think all those guys can play some center, but I just wonder where the league is trending. This was something that Michael Reinsdorf brought up in that Zoom presser, was that when he was looking for the next executive, he wanted someone that was going to be ahead of the curve on team building. And I wonder if you're drafting like 6'10" guys to be your center, is that going to be the future of the league, or are those more power forward types? So I think that's all the more reason why I would take Mara a little bit sooner. But Steinbach, incredible rebounder on both sides of the ball. That's becoming really valuable in the league right now. Good feel, good touch. I buy him as a potential shooter long-term. He has a good face-up game. Does not really protect the rim at a high level. So it's like,
does he feel like a young Vooch?
A little bit,
right?
Because he doesn't really protect the rim, but he's got good feel. Not the passer that Vooch is, but that could potentially be developed. And then you've got Merez Johnson, who I think is probably going to be a lottery pick at this point. Super athletic, versatile defender. He's a dog. Like, he would be the right kind of person you would want to build around. And then the mystery guy is Jaden Quaintance, who probably is the best defender in the class.
Unbelievable athlete.
Unreal athlete. Yeah. But like, is his knee right? And I'd feel much more comfortable drafting him at 15, knowing the Bulls also have 4. If that was your only pick, I'd be a little bit more freaked out about that. But if any of those guys are there at 15 and they want to go with,
what about Senick Jr.? Did he impress you at all?
He's a little bit more raw, but I think the skills are, and like the tool set that he has is really compelling, where it's like long rim protector and also can shoot it. I think he's got to like learn how to play the game a little bit more. But he's young. He's like 19 years old. He'll figure that out. So I wouldn't be opposed to that either, but I probably have him just behind some of those other guys.
Right.
So I think he's like one of those, could he be like a Miles Turner type that can really shoot it and protect the rim? Or is he going to be more of like, Tyler Smith, kind of one of those guys that you'd hope turns into that, but really doesn't quite get there? That's kind of the range I see for him. And I know Tyler Smith is, not really factoring in much right now, but he was somebody I was definitely high on in the draft a couple of years ago.
The funny thing is with these top 4 that I still can't wrap my head around is I think AJ DeBonce is number 1. Okay, that's just how I feel. I just think there's something there. He's kind of got an it factor. But I think it's so close between him and Boozer. And for some reason, Bulls fans feel like Boozer's like some consolation prize if he falls to 4. I don't understand why people can't comprehend one of the most dominant freshman seasons in years. I mean, he out Cooper. And I'm not saying this idea that he's not that there's something wrong with his athleticism. First of all, I don't think is 100% accurate. Just looking at what he did at the combine. Is he this high flying, Caleb Wilson type Sean Kemp? No, he's not, but you can't discount IQ. You can't discount the trends right now in the league where it's not about your athleticism. It's about Luka putting you on his shoulder and slow pacing you to the hoop, or Joker just kind of out IQing you. And you go down the list right now and see just the high IQ guys in the NBA who might not be considered this great athletes. And I think Boozer is a better athlete than all those guys. I don't understand what's getting lost in the translation. If he falls to 4, I would be ecstatic. I would stumble getting the ticket up to the freaking podium.
Here's the way I've been describing it. This is the Caleb Williams. I'm doing the Caleb Williams, Caleb Wilson.
It's
thing.
If he comes to Chicago, just get ready for that. Yeah.
This draft is like the Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels draft, and you're drafting 3. You just take the best guy who's left.
Yeah.
Like, these are the clear top 3. Don't overthink it. And if it's Wilson, you take him. If it's Boozer, you take him. But I'm with you. Like, you look at the best players in the league right now: Luka, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jokic. And then obviously you have like the freak of natures, Wemby, who's just one of one,
right.
And Giannis and guys like that. But the real like Luka, Jokic types are playing at their own pace. They are physically dominant. They are incredibly high feel and incredibly skilled. And I think that's kind of like the archetype that teams want to build around right now. So I'm extremely high on Boozer. I do understand the questions that people have about his athleticism, but I don't think that not being an explosive athlete makes you have less upside. I think there's a very good chance that he's the best player in this class. I think you could say the same thing about AJ Peterson and Caleb. But Boozer, I mean, if he falls for, you have like a franchise player that you can build everything around. I don't think that's necessarily the case with Wilson. I think he's maybe more of a complimentary guy, a very high level complimentary guy. It's not a knock on him, but Boozer is someone you can build a whole system around. And that's like what we've been talking about for years. This team needs is like, they got to get a guy. Boozer is a guy.
Yeah. Why do you think So say if it does come down to Caleb Wilson, and you just said something where you don't know if is it just because there's a rawness there that it's hard to identify? Okay, I feel like I can't touch the ceiling because of the rawness there. It's just cloudy. I don't know how high the ceiling is.
I mean, I think his ceiling is really high. Don't get me wrong. I didn't see as much in terms of like creating his own shot. And if you're talking about the very highest level, that's what it's all about, is like creating space and consistently being able to score, or at least facilitate and get your team a score when they need it. So I think Wilson is an incredible athlete. He's an incredible rebounder. He was very, very productive at a young age in college, which is really important when you're talking about evaluating and projecting guys into the future. Great rebounder. The thing that I was most impressed with is his passing. Like, he did a lot of high-low passing with Henry Visar at UNC, some live dribble passing. Like, could you maybe put him on the ball a little bit more and let him run some pick and rolls? I think that's a possibility, maybe down the line a little bit. But the shooting is not quite there, especially from long range. Like, the mid-range stuff is actually pretty impressive too. So he's got a lot of tools, and I'm very excited about what his upside can be. I just don't think at this point I would say that I'd be more confident in building an offense around him than I would AJ, Darren, or Cam.
Right. The guards, you went through that list of guards, and obviously there's going to be a run of guards. They're not all going to go consecutively because there's so many of them. Someone's going to say, well, we're going to mix a big in here. So, this idea that after 4, it's going to be, Acuff and Flemings, and then it's just going to go make a run. I mean, there's a chance one of them could fall down to 15 if there is a rush on some of these bigs, because, like you talked about, what if all of a sudden the league is like, oh, well, this is the way the league's going, have 2 bigs, so go ahead and grab one of these bigs. I want to talk about these guards. Here's my order of them. I think Acuff is number 1, and I am not scared of his height. I don't think he's not Derrick Rose explosive. I don't know why people are all of a sudden making it. He's this great athlete and stuff. That's not his game. The Dame Lillard comp is actually more realistic to me. I have him number 1, but if I'm that team, I have to have the right coach and the right other pieces in place. I'm not drafting him with a clean slate. I'm just not, because you're just leaving a big hole in your backcourt that you're going to have to build a team kind of around. To me, he's more almost a finishing piece than he is a startup piece. But I do love a lot of things about him. The guy I like number 2, he scares me a little bit because he's got a little LaMelo feel to him. I love Mikal Brown Jr.
Yeah,
I just think
he's a lot of fun.
His shooting, the geometry of what he shoots and changes the floor is one thing. I don't think people are giving his passing enough credit. I think he sees the floor really well. I love his size. I love his athleticism, explosiveness. I get a little nervous. Does he got a little too much LaMelo in him? But so I have him 2. I have Cameron Carr 3, Fleming's 4, and Wagler. Wagler and Burries are kind of like back and forth with me. There's something that makes me a little nervous about Wagler. A guy that just kind of comes on the scene like he did, and credit to him for being, a worker and the system. But that's what makes me nervous. Is he just the system guy that just he happened to, I don't know. What say you with that list of names and those guards? What's your feel? Who do you feel good about?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is, like, when I talk about having them all in the same tier, what I mean by that is, like, I think you can make an argument for any person in any order. Right. So I'm not sitting here saying any of these guys is like way worse or way better than any of the others.
And so much of it is team related too.
Exactly.
Who's
the context
the team?
is
who's
huge.
the fit? What's the system? I mean, you might be picking a guy who maybe it's Fleming's over Acuff and Brown because he fits what you want a little more.
Exactly. If you're talking about like a blank slate, though, I think I would go Wagler first, because I think the big thing that scares me about a guy like Acuff or Mikal Brown is, like, what happens if they don't turn into a star type of offensive creator? Like, can they kind of scale down and play a complementary role? I have a little bit less confidence in that, and not to say they can't do it, but I just think Wagler, I feel more comfortable with him
because of the shooting.
The shooting is really good.
Yeah.
I think
No,
his
that's a
feel
great
is
point.
really good. He's like very frail and very skinny, but he plays with a lot of physicality, gets to the rim, gets a ton of fouls. So I like that. And I tweeted this out the other day, but it's like, I'm always hearing about, oh, the Illinois kid this year. Everybody's always, we're in Chicago. Everybody, all the security guards at the Bulls games are talking about him and all that stuff. So I'm always like a little skeptical. But he really, I mean, he's going to be a player. I like him a lot. I like Michael Brown as well. For me, the comp is Jordan Poole, and that like sounds pretty scary.
That's scary too. That's also scares me. Yes.
The talent when he was with the Warriors, it was like he was amazing. He was a huge piece behind their championship run in 22. But also there's like a lot of downside, a lot of boneheaded plays.
Yes.
And so I feel like he's the furthest away. And so again, depends on your team. If you're willing to wait it out and develop him, then I think he could end up being the most talented of the bunch. But it's just like you're not going to get somebody that can help you win at a high level today if you draft him. I have a hard time with ACUF because he's 6'2". I think smaller guards it's just tough to make a living.
Yeah.
And you see guys that stand out. Jalen Brunson is incredible. Dame, to your point, I think he could be that good offensively, but he needs to be that good offensively if he wants to be that
stay on the floor. Yep.
Exactly. Because he's a very poor defender. But his passing is like really good. His off the dribble shooting, his shooting numbers were like outrageously good. So I am pretty confident in his ability to be a good offensive player, but I think he needs to be a really great offensive player in order to survive. So I just have some questions about all these guys. That's the question for him. I like Flemings a lot. He's probably the best defensive player of that group, but maybe the lowest ceiling offensive player. I think he can really, be a floor general. The shot is like a little shaky, but he did make it at a pretty good rate last year. And defensively, like I said, he's the best of that group. So it's so context dependent, but I really like all these guys. But I will say this, I'm glad the Bulls are not drafting in that 5 to 9 range.
Right.
I think the drop off from 4 to 5 is pretty significant for me.
Mm-hmm.
And any one of these guys could hit, but I don't know if I feel confident saying like, this is the one that's going to hit. And so it's just like, it's a different category, I think. So the Bulls are like, I heard you and Cap talking about it the other day. Like, I think there's a clear between Caleb or Boozer and ACUF, if you have him at 5, which I totally understand, I'd feel so much more confident.
Cap's drinking that ACUF Kool-Aid. I'm like, so look,
he was incredible. I mean, I totally get it.
Yeah, I look at the way the draft, the mocks, or the way the draft is lined up, and to me, like, I was playing the game of, okay, what would be the perfect, like, I think if ACUF goes to Brooklyn, I think it's terrible. Now, before Jason Kidd got fired, if ACUF went down to Dallas because of Cooper and the front court, the athleticism and the rim protection they have, to me, ACUF in Dallas is no brainer. That's where I think he could flourish because he opens up things. He's a great lob passer. He's got a decent little float game that he showed. And it just, I mean, they covered up Luka's bad defense. They could cover up his bad defense. And so I thought that would be the perfect landing place. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. I don't know if he'll fall that far because they're at 9.
That's the thing. Yeah.
But yeah, like if he goes to Sacramento or Brooklyn, I have some more questions about it. But if he ends up with one of these teams that has like a good infrastructure, I think to your point about him being like a finishing piece, like you have to have the right context around him that can help cover him on defense and can really maximize his offense. I think Dallas might be the best landing spot.
Yeah. Before I get you out of here, overview of the draft from what people were talking. Is there a kind of comp of, hey, this class, I look at the all rookie teams that came out for the 20, and you know how I felt about the 25 class. I love the 25 class. I love Cooper. I love Khan. Even like the first and second team, I look at those 10 young men and I'm like, wow, this league's in a really good place. Just seeing how VJ played in the playoffs. I mean, he had his down moments and people kind of killed him in a couple games, but and Harper, I mean,
oh man, Harper is just unbelievably good.
And by the way, Rutgers, what the hell were you doing?
I don't know what happened there.
What the hell happened there? That should be a 30 for 30 that needs to be explored years from now. What was the feeling at the combine as far as, hey, this class, because 27 and 28, again, so much can change, but 27 and 28 feel like kind of 24-ish, where it's kind of a womp womp. I mean, you may get a guy, but it just feels like there's going to be a drop off. 25, 26, both feel like they were going to be special. What was the talk as far as this feels even deeper than 25?
Yeah, I think the big difference is there's not a Wemby or a Cooper at the very top. Like Debansa, I think is really good. I would not put him in that same category.
No.
Those guys are like absolutely generational. And I'm not like ruling that out for Debansa, but I don't think he's in that same group. But I think from like 1 to 4, I think about this sometimes where it's like, where would a Dylan Harper, a Con Knipple, VJ Edgecombe go in this draft? And I think you could make an argument that any of them would be in that same group, or even behind the top 3 guys in this draft. So I think the like 1 through 4, I guess what makes this draft really good is like the quality of 3 and 4. I feel like both of those guys could be number 1 in a lot of years. I think 5 through 10 is strong. I don't think it's like way stronger than a lot of drafts. I think 11 through 15 is pretty strong relative to other drafts because you have a lot of guys that could end up being like high level starters in the league. Last year's draft was just so good. I just feel like through 1 through 15, with the exception of 12, happened to be really good players. Unfortunately, the Bulls had the 12th pick. But I think it kind of falls off in the 20s and 30s. So many guys are going back to college, especially a lot of the big men, which makes it just like a little weird and imbalanced. So it's a little bit hard to evaluate for me past that. But I think with the depth of talent in the first half of the lottery, and then, or even like through 15, like again, the Bulls are just in such a good spot with having 2 of these picks in ranges of the draft where there is a lot of high level talent.
All right, we're going to play a quick game called What Would Will Do?
Okay, let's do it.
All right. You're in charge of the Bulls.
Is the first one Kenny Atkinson or Tibbs?
No. We're going to save that for the Cali rant. You are in charge of the Bulls hiring process for the coach. Sweeney or Bliss?
I don't really know too much about Bliss, so it's hard for me to say him. Sweeney's been somebody that's like been kind of on the radar as like, oh, maybe he's the next guy to get a head coaching job. Good defensive pedigree, has been to the finals with the Mavericks, and is obviously doing a great job with San Antonio. So I'd probably lean him.
Yeah, I like a guy that I see key players go into out of the timeout right before they take the floor. And you're seeing that with Sweeney. It's like, okay, why are they checking in with him right before they go out there for key moments? He must have some nice intel, or he must be a calming voice that they like.
Exactly. Yeah. I will say this though, as we get deeper into as I get deeper into my career on the beat, the like number one important factor for me has changed from like basketball on the court stuff to who's going to be the best to cover and who's going to give me the best quotes and who's going to be like the best relationship guy. So we got spoiled with Billy, man. He was great with us. So whoever it is, I hope they can make our lives easier.
Yeah. You are the Washington Wizards and have the number 1 pick. Who do you take? And you are the Wizards. You have their team makeup.
I think I would have the hardest time saying no to Debansa. I think that's the real reason why he's going to be the number 1 pick. But I might trade down and try to get Boozer and then trade Anthony Davis, because Boozer and Sarr as the front court of the future is really good. I don't think you're banking on AD right now to be like there in 2 or 3 years. So I wouldn't have a problem drafting over him or getting another guy like that. But if you can move down, pick up another pick and still get Boozer, that might be my move.
Okay, you are Utah at number 2. Debansa is off the board. Who do you take with Utah's current roster?
I go Peterson there. I think they have such a strong front court already. Lowry, Jaren Jackson. You bring back Walker Kessler. Incredible defensive front court. The rebounding is shored up with Walker Kessler. You need another complementary scorer. And I think Darren Peterson, like he had a weird season, right? Like it was just a bizarre situation.
Right.
But I think he's the most talented player in the draft. And so if he looks more like he did in high school, I think you've got yourself a star.
Yeah. The only thing that makes me nervous about that is Ace Bailey and Peterson.
Yeah.
I wonder, could be interesting.
I wonder if they trade up and just like go get, and it's Ace and 2 for Trey Johnson and 1, and they kind of flip flop there, and you get Ace and Darren.
Well, he's not the hometown, but the BYU kid, and
on the Wizards, and then you still replace the 2 guard on Utah.
Okay, Debansa's gone and Peterson's gone. You are number 3. what would Will do with?
I would go Boozer.
With
Memphis. For Memphis.
Yeah.
I just think he's, I don't think it's a huge gap, but I do have those three in a higher tier than I would have Wilson, like his own tier at 4. Again, gotcha. I think Wilson's going to be awesome, but Boozer's already awesome.
You are the Bulls at number 4, and you've traded Josh Giddey for a future first-round pick. So you have a complete clean roster.
I'm good at my job.
You have Modest and Trey Jones. What does Will do?
At 4, I'm still going Wilson. It's a little weird because you got Modest, you got Noah, you got Leonard Miller. They bring Caleb into the mix, but they're just a complete blank slate, and they need to get the most talent in the room. The Bulls should just be like happy to be here. This was the draft to move up in. They got so lucky. Take the best guy. Don't overthink it.
All right, last one, and then I'll get you out of here. There's a bus. Peck and Big Dave, your coworkers, your foxhole guys. It's going off a cliff. There's another bus. Joe Colley and Casey Johnson, 2 dads.
Oh, my God.
Peck and Big Dave are single.
My brothers or my fathers?
Your brothers or your fathers? Guys that have kids or no?
Uh-oh. One of us froze. Say it again. I missed the last part.
I said, what would Will do?
What would I do? I don't know. That's impossible. I'm trying to turn into Spider-Man and shoot webs and catch both buses. I don't know if I can do it.
Always save your coworkers. Always save your coworkers.
Yeah. Maybe I just gotta, because they just make my life so easy. They make my life so easy. But that would haunt me forever.
Well, I love having you on here. Anybody that's on the internet, please go check out. It's on CHGO. It's on All NBA YouTube network. I mean, it is. You just want to. It's a rabbit hole because I start watching one, then another, and they keep giving it to you. And I'm like, oh, these are good. These are good.
That's what I want to hear.
Any Bulls fans that want to hear about all these different prospects, go check them out. Dude, tremendous job, man. I love it.
Appreciate you, Joe, man. Good catching up. It's been a little while.
Yeah, we'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks for having me.
All right, no problem. Will Gottlieb, my guy. I love Will. Smartest guy on the beat. Much smarter than my dumb ass. So, all right, let's go to the rant. Cowley Island. Probably called this a year ago. Told all the Cavs writers last year, before this time, going into the playoffs, you got the wrong coach. You got probably one of the more talented teams in the East, and this is last year. Jared Allen, Mobley, Defensive Player of the Year. They didn't have Harden at the time, but they had Donovan Mitchell. I mean, you're talking, and you add James Harden to it. You got some Hall of Famers right there. Kenny Atkinson is a used car salesman pretending to be a coach, and people doubted it. This has been, first of all, the Eastern Conference, this is embarrassing. This is as embarrassing an Eastern Conference powers, whether it was Boston and what happened with them and Tatum not looking fully healthy and no Halliburton and just the easiest runway you could ask for. And Kenny Atkinson, you are dominating a New York team who's obviously rusty. You are up historically in the fourth quarter, and you just let your guys gas out without calling a timeout. Even if you had those timeouts late, not once did I see you say, we're going to get Harden out of there and go offense for defense. You know who I like as a defensive player? I love the way Strus competes. Didn't see him. I mean, the mistakes and the poor coaching in the series. I mean, little Mikey Brown, we all know what he's doing. He rode LeBron's coattails to a championship, and now he's like Jerry Reed in The Water Boy. He stole Tibbs's playbook. I think it was a green notebook or whatever it was in The Water Boy. He's just running the same offense and defense that they ran with Tibbs because the players and Rick Brunson, who's really the coach of the team, demanded Mikey Brown do it. And Mikey Brown's just a smiling, really happy to be there, not going to fight the players. LeBron coached that team. I mean, you talk about Mikey Brown just being scholarship coach of the year. This is it. The culture was established by Tibbs. The offense was Tibbs. The defense is Tibbs. They're still paying Tibbs more than they're paying Mikey Brown. So who's really the coach of this team? And he's got to look across or down the way, and the coach he has to beat and outsmart is Kenny Atkinson, who's basically Jim Boylan with a little better sense of X's and O's. Just an operator, Kenny. You're being exposed. And when this thing's over in a couple games, you should be fired. And we know who should really be coaching that team. The guy who is not coaching right now, Tom Thibodeau, should be coaching the Cavs because they are in the second apron. They are in win now mode, and this window closes quickly in a year or two. That's the guy that should be coaching this team. So keep it up, Kenny. Good job. All right, let's get to the list. I kind of hit this earlier. I'm going to go over a little more detail. I did something with the guards a while ago as far as after that top four, who were my guards, starting with Acuff and I mentioned it to Will, who I feel. I'm going to go into a little more detail of why. Again, this is based on clean slate. We've got nothing, so I don't have the front court. I don't have the right infrastructure. I'm just taking your talent because, like I said, these five guys are predicated on what's there. Like Acuff, if I'm Dallas, I would love for him to fall down to 9 because I've got the players to support him. I've got a lead dog in Cooper. You don't have to come in and be the lead dog, my guy. I've got rim protection. We showed that with Luka Doncic, that we got guys, when healthy, that could protect the rim. So there's a lot in place for a guy like Acuff to come in and succeed. Do I take him with a clean slate? Let's find out. All right, so I'm going to go from the Wagler. I get Will's point. He actually made a really good point that makes me rethink it. But out of the five, he's a shooter. I call him poor man's Con Knipple because I think he could kind of do a lot of things. I need to see more. And in private workouts, he's going to have to show a lot. But right now, I got him at 5. 4, Kingston Fleming. A lot of things I like about him is athleticism. His shot's kind of funky. I know a couple players that played college ball against him and Mikel Brown this year, and they both thought Brown was a much bigger problem than Wagler. So I'm going to take their word. I'm sorry, than Kingston Fleming. So I'm going to take the word. Cameron Carr, there's a lot of things I love about him. He's a little bigger, Donovan Mitchell to me as a comp, and a better defensive player than Donovan Mitchell. But the long arms, shooting ability, and just crazy athleticism, finisher, I have him 3. Mikel Brown Jr., I mean, in a year from now or 2 years from now, I'm sure someone on Twitter is going to do a gotcha because he might be poor man's LaMelo Ball. Crazy passes, stupid things, bad shots, or he could be really, really vicious and good. I just like his ceiling. His ceiling's a little scary, but I do like his ceiling. I have him number 2 and number 1 just because he's just a flat-out scorer. If I'm a clean slate team, I will now build players around him, whether it's through free agency, next year's draft, however I have to do it. I will get bigs. I will get rim protection. I will get a off guard that could help cover up your poor defense. And the thing I will caution you, his defense was horseshit, okay? There is something to be said because we went through this with McDermott. When the Bulls drafted McDermott, defensively, he was horrible. He was told by his dad, who was his head coach at Creighton, your defense needs to be horrible because you can't pick up fouls. Look, McDermott wasn't a great defensive player. He was a pretty good team defender, better than what people thought, but he wasn't the greatest, didn't have the greatest footwork, didn't have the great athleticism. There's probably some of that where Acuff is told, don't grab guys, don't wrap up guys, because if you're off the floor, we're screwed. And maybe that was just the way he had to play in his 1 year. So I will caution you that he might not be as bad a defensive player as we all think, because maybe that's just what he had to do. But there's a lot of evidence that there's just some turnstile defense that makes me a little nervous. But again, for going 1 through 5, I still think he's the best because I just think offensively he can be a 24, 25 point scorer per night. So that's it. Loved having Will on. Again, check out his videos. He's done a great job, since the combine, breaking these guys down. They're nice, quick hitting 5-minute videos. They're great. So I'm always thankful that he comes on because, like I said, he's just love his mind and the way he thinks about things. So, and until next week, I got next.